welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. welcome to this
Rapids
live.
Downtown Development Authority Board Meeting, Wednesday, November 8th at 8:31. First order of our business is to approve the September 13th, 2023 minutes, which were in the packet. Are there any comments or corrections? Thank you. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Excuse me. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. Approval of the primary September 30th, preliminary. Well, I guess they're primary too. September 30th financials. Ms. Chapman, good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Both September and October are in your packet since last meeting was canceled. I just want to point out something that some of you may notice that looks a little bit weird. You notice an asset hit the non-tax fund for $118,000 as a right-to-use asset on the September statements, and then it's gone on the October statements. We found out that that's actually in the wrong fund. You will see it show up. It was backed out of October. You'll see it show up in the non-tax fund, or in the local tax fund, as part of the general fixed assets, which will show up on your November statements. It was backed out in October and put back in November. So that is actually the lease for the new storage facility for the event stuff. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions on the statements. As of the end of October, your non-tax fund was 42% of the way through the budget, and local tax fund was 33% of the way through the budget. I would ask for approval for both statement Ds, expenditures that occurred in September and October, if there are no questions.
Any questions? I guess not. Could we entertain a motion? Thank you.
Support.
All right. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And
Thank
I just
you.
want to offer, if I may, we priced our Lion Square bonds yesterday, so that was very exciting, and we are on track to close just before Thanksgiving.
The bonds are within budget?
They are in the budget. Yeah.
Okay. Within budget?
Within budget, yes.
Okay,
Both in the budget and within.
great. World of Winter. Snow removal. I'd almost rather have snow this morning. It was-
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Here today to talk about World of Winter snow removal. So really quick, actually we won't go there yet. So really quick, I just want to talk about how we got to here. So last year during World of Winter, we did a snow removal pilot. So worked with the events and activations team to look at the entire footprint of World of Winter and try to understand where there were some areas that aren't currently being maintained by another entity like parks or private property owners, and look for opportunities to remove snow from those sort of in-between gray areas, really as an attempt to improve accessibility and enhance the overall experience for folks coming down to World of Winter. And so we scoped out a small couple of areas and hired a company called Building Bridges to do that work. And sort of the feedback that we got from folks that attended the festival was resoundingly positive. Our operations team, the events and activations team, also thought it was incredibly positive. That was one less thing that they sort of had to worry about. They knew that these areas were going to be taken care of. The snow was removed without incident. And actually, there was a couple of instances where the snow removal company kind of bailed us out at the last minute from areas that weren't covered in the pilot project as well. So after the festival ended and we debriefed sort of everything, and one of the things we talked about was snow removal for the upcoming 2024 festival. We talked about let's put the entire festival footprint under snow removal contract and really look at enhancing removing snow from all of the areas that we can. We're not replacing any sort of maintenance. So if parks, if you're listening, you're still responsible for maintaining the parks that you remove snow from. But what we really wanted to do was make sure that we were covering all of the WOW footprint, either as a primary snow removal or secondary snow removal, as part of the festival. So again, we sort of set out looking at a variety of vendors. We ended up selecting Building Bridges, again, after engaging 5 vendors and getting 3 quotes back. If you're unfamiliar with Building Bridges, they're a local company. They do a lot of work to really provide opportunities to, I wrote the word down here and I already forgot it, to underrepresented populations in downtown, specifically focusing in the 49507 zip code. So this year we scoped, like I mentioned, we scoped out the snow removal a little bit differently. So we have the entire festival footprint as part of their snow removal purview, and we sort of prioritize the areas that they need to remove snow in. And then it's really focused on the installations and the areas that they are removing snow in and around. The sort of base setup is that they come automatically when it snows. The way it's set up right now is that snows 2 inches, they automatically come out, they'll clear out everything, put some de-icer down to make sure that no buildup comes, and they come out twice a day, which is sort of what we had set up last year. They come out about mid-morning, and then they do another pass-through in the evening, knowing that World of Winter is sort of light-based, and so we get a lot of traffic in the evenings. We want to make sure that it's clear for everybody. Really quick, I just kind of want to highlight, so World of Winter has a pretty large footprint, as I'm sure you're all aware, and so this is just sort of a taste of all of the places that we're looking at removing snow, either as a primary or secondary location throughout the footprint. And the ask here is for $21,322, which includes a 10% contingency above the contracted amount. With that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
I have a couple, just so I understand the contract. So if we had hardly any snow, we're still in for the minimum amount, not including the contingency, because I'm sure they have to ramp up for it and all that. Correct?
Correct. The contingency is mostly if we need like emergency last minute.
So if we're overwhelmed with snow, say we got 2 or 3 times what the contract anticipated, are they stuck? Would we renegotiate? Is it time and material? How do you handle something like that?
There's a cap on their end. I do not recall the cap, but it's pretty high. Like the threshold's pretty high for how much they remove snow before we need to come back to the table and renegotiate. Right. I will add to that really quick. We have the opportunity to hire them on a sort of per diem rate. The per diem rate is higher. So if we were to move to that and we got a whole lot of snow, we would actually probably pay a lot more, and we can't get guaranteed the service that they're promising us, because if we would have to call them to initiate service, they wouldn't automatically deploy, and there's no guarantee that we would get service the same day, because they service contracted entities first and per diem sort of second. So even if they came out the same day, we probably couldn't get them twice a day. And if we're inundated with snow, like on a heavy week, it would probably be really tough to get them out on a daily basis to remove the snow. Great question. Thank you, Al.
Thanks.
Does it in any way change, this engagement in any way change our liability profile?
I don't think so. They assume all of that. They are insured and bonded. It helps, I think, with that when we're clearing snow and inviting people to come down close to the river and on river walks. And in the past, those have not been maintained very well. Outside of the parks, they're not really touched by really any entity. And so we're touching those and making sure that they're taken care of. And from both the user standpoint last year and our internal operations standpoint, we were incredibly impressed with their ability to meet our demand. I think that was part of the reason of going with Building Bridges. It wasn't just the price, it was that they proved to us last year that they could do the job and do it to a pretty high standard. And so we're pretty comfortable with moving forward with them and trusting that they'll do the job that we expect them to do. Hopefully that answers your question.
Anybody else? Questions?
Just a comment.
Yes.
I know this company well also, and I think that they do great work in many areas, including 49507, company of great integrity, and they've even brought in individuals with no experience, whether it's building experience or landscape snow removal, and at least 3 or 4 times worked with someone to start their own company. So after they left, they're Building Bridges. It was like, hey, I want to do this long term, and they were like, we'll help you. We'll help you with your truck and other things like that. So I think that speaks to the integrity of this company and something that at least I know and I think we would love to see in this community. So.
That's really great to know. Thank you for sharing that.
If there are no other comments, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Mr. Elledge, you're still up?
I'm here for the long haul.
Yes.
Don't worry, we have guests, so it's not just me. The next is MEDC grant approval for Has Heart. So I'm going to talk just briefly about this, and then we're going to bring up some other folks to talk to you. So earlier this year, we were approached by Has Heart to apply for an MEDC grant. On their behalf, the MEDC grant, the way this works is an entity like a DDA or an improvement district or a governmental entity has to apply on behalf of a project in their district, and they're only allowed to apply for one project. And typically for this grant, it has to be a business that's doing some sort of transformative place-making process as part of their overall business model or project. And so Has Heart approached us about their transformative project here at the Veterans Park building. And to us, it made sense. It seemed like a really good fit for the MEDC program. They had a really cool story to tell, and they were doing a lot of work both inside and outside of this building. And so worked with them to build an application, applied. We received the grant, and so the Has Heart folks worked really hard to live up to their end of the bargain, which was transforming the space from what it was to what it is. And then we submitted all of that, and the MEDC approved it. And as part of the agreement with the MEDC, they actually provided the DDA with a check for $25,000. So we're here to ask that the DDA approve the expenditure of that $25,000 check from the MEDC to Has Heart. And to talk a little bit more about Has Heart, I have Michael and Tyler here. Come on up, guys. I'm sure they'd love to tell you about all the great things that they've got going on.
Thank you so much, Melvin. And for those who don't know, that is not a mausoleum. That's one of the common questions that we've gotten asked. And so we'll set that as the opening. I'm Michael Hyacinth, 8-year U.S. Navy CB, local entrepreneur, and very passionate about innovations in the community that uplift kids, but of course, continue to give back to our veteran population. Through creativity, and this is my good friend and partner, Tyler Way, who he and I met at Grand Valley when I was finishing school using my GI Bill, and saw how the community really came together with art during Art Prize, but yet a family member of mine was killed in combat, and so I was torn. I saw how the community was really alive with art, but inside my household, we were mourning this local hero who was not able to make it back and enjoy art. And so I said, you know, let's utilize this opportunity to keep Dane DuBois' legacy alive, but to bring and empower other veterans to participate in Art Prize. And since that day in 2011, we've been working with veterans not only within Kent County, throughout the state, but also throughout the country. And I'll let Tyler quickly say a little bit about himself, and then the tour, and then I'll jump back in how we got to this building.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Tyler Way. Best way to describe what I am is an artist and designer. I've been an independent creative since 2009 when I left Grand Valley State University. Worked at Wolverine for a bit, but then ultimately pursued own interest. And ever since 2010, when Michael and I first met over a cup of coffee, I realized the ability and opportunity where art and design can help tell human stories. And so shortly after Michael and I first met in 2010, Michael met a quadriplegic Marine who was about my age, from the West Michigan area, paralyzed from the neck down, and lost the ability to speak due to his injuries. And Michael found out that he loved collecting graphic t-shirts, like band shirts and things like that. So he had this huge collection in his closet. And Michael asked if he wanted to design a shirt of his own. And that's where his face lit up with a huge grin. Michael called me and asked if I'd be willing to work with this veteran to tell his story through art and design that would get printed on a t-shirt. And that was such a powerful process, both for him to be able to have a voice to share with his friends and family, his story and his message, but for me as an artist who doesn't come from a military background, My grandpa served in the Army for a few years, but that was kind of the extension of my exposure to the military. But now I had this new reason and opportunity to get to know a different part of the population living in Grand Rapids. And so ever since that moment, we've continued partnering veterans with graphic designers. And every fall, we would feature the 5 designs that were co-created with veterans and designers at Art Prize. And so that was always our big unveiling event where we would feature these designs and stories and use it as a pop-up shop opportunity to fundraise for that next year's project. And so it was through Art Prize that Michael and I really found a platform for Has Heart to live and breathe. And that's how we also got introduced to this building through the city Parks Department.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say, and I'll keep saying, I think, you know, the origin of Art Prize was to help incubate and foster other innovations. And I'm happy to say that we are one of the few that are still innovating as a result of Art Prize's original intent. And so I think it's a testament to the passion that we have for veterans, but also the community that has surrounded us in this endeavor. And so as Tyler referenced, we met through a cup of coffee. And so we've been utilizing this space. And so we had it envisioned to utilize this space for a long-term purpose. As you know, it's been vacant for some years outside of the Art Prize days that we open it. But we just found this building to be so beautiful for the work that we've done on a very, very important, platform that the park is. It's a place that invites people, and it's surrounded by so many stories of war heroes that have gone to to be enshrined. And so prior to COVID, we were hoping to open, but of course that disrupted everything. And so we just continue to stay persistent. Met with David in the Parks Department, and the plan was, they would raise $500,000, and then we would go out and raise $800,000. And I'm happy to say that we have been successful in that endeavor. But a project like that continues to require additional funding. So we got with Tim. The DDA supported us by allowing us to extend this beautiful building, the outdoor patio. It'll be a place for people to sit. We'll potentially do events outside the park. And then this grant opportunity came available where we were to front the initial $25,000 expenditures, and then this is just allowing us to recuperate the funding that we spent. And so I'm happy to say Monday at 9 a.m., the Has Heart Coffee Shop will officially be open. So let's get a round of applause for that. And we're hiring veterans, we're inspiring the community. The guys who live at the park, we've had some time to talk to them. And during construction, they've actually come to meet us and they've helped us clean out the park. And so this is what a project like this does. It brings people together despite their conditions. It lets them know that everyone matters. And I think Has Heart is here for the long term, and we're grateful for the support. Melvin, your leadership in this, Tim, continuing to support us, and the committee for your generous contribution, and Rich for being a mentor and inspiring us to stay at it. So I think we've talked long enough. We'll answer any questions, but we're grateful for this opportunity.
Congratulations on opening. I think it's an awesome project.
Thank you. What coffee are you using?
So we partnered with local favorite Madcap Coffee. So they are a coffee supplier and consultant. They helped us pick all the equipment that we invested in, that this MEDC grant helped us fund. So without them, we wouldn't be quite where we are. So you're always going to get a good cup of coffee. And I'll also say that tomorrow and Friday, we are soft opening for friends and family, and everybody in this room is now considered friends and family. So we thank you for your support. So if you're over by the Veterans Memorial Park, pop on in. Our deadline was to be open for Veterans Day Parade on Saturday, so we will be open for that, and then we'll be celebrating officially on Monday.
Yeah, and one last thing. We carved out in our agreement with MadCap, if in the event we were to meet veteran entrepreneurs that have coffee, we would still invite them and we would sell their coffee as well. So that's how we're continuing to stay mission focused in giving back to those who've sacrificed.
It's a great story. Yes.
It mentions a retail space or opportunity there. What are you looking to retail there?
So a lot of the designs we've created over the years, we have about a library of 63 veteran and collaborative designs. And so those are featured on different products, decal stickers, patches, apparel. So we'll have their items for sale. We'll also have some coffee supplies there so everybody can take a, home brewing and make their own cup of coffee when they're not able to make it in. And a lot of different opportunities, hopefully for other veteran entrepreneurs. Michael is very engaged in the veteran entrepreneurial space in West Michigan and at Grand Valley, and so we want this to be an incubator space for other veterans to showcase and sell their products as well.
Yes.
So I'm glad again to see this space being used. I remember when way years ago when I worked at the Children's Museum, it was the Annex office building, and I got stories about that building at that time too. But number one, I was wondering if this is a for-profit or non-profit business. And then number two, I'm wondering, are you planning on having any either resources or service offerings for veterans? If, a veteran was to come in there, hey, I don't know what the need is, but are you able to direct them?
Yeah, so HasHeart continues and will remain a nonprofit. But we're innovators, we're entrepreneurs, and so we're creating a revenue model that we hopefully will allow us to be sustainable and not have to reach out for grants. And that's why we sell coffee, and that's why we've created merchandise. To your second question, Kent County Veteran Services is a local organization funded by millage dollars in addition to Veterans Affairs from the state, and we're a strategic partner with them, so that if a veteran's looking for home resources, job, health care, we can direct them directly to those individuals. And so back to the retail aspect, happy to say that several years ago, we got a chance to meet Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, and he flew Tyler and I down to Seattle, and Starbucks did a really cool project where they featured all of the HasHeart product inside the first roastery that Howard Schultz opened up. And Melvin, I'll share some pictures with you if you want to share with the team. It was really awesome.
And I'll also say that we're going to have a pay it forward campaign. So anytime a veteran comes in, their coffee is already paid for. So we're going to have an ongoing gift card that people can contribute to. So it can be donations in large sums from businesses and individuals, as well as if someone buys a coffee, they'll be asked, do you want to buy coffee for a veteran? And we can add that amount to a gift card. So our goal is that a veteran never has to pay for their own cup of coffee in the building.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to approve. All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I wouldn't think so. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys. We got to go work on making coffee.
All right. Next, again.
Still me.
Yes.
Hanging out. Retail innovation grant request. So I'm assuming you all know by now that a small watchmaker out of Detroit, Shinola, is looking to open their second store here in Grand Rapids in downtown. Over here at the space formerly occupied by Bravo LT, so on the corner of Monroe Center and Division. Really quick, I just want to highlight a couple things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rich App. So this will be the 19th business in the last 2 years that DDA has considered funding for in terms of opening new businesses and providing a retail innovation grant. And really quick, like I mentioned, this is Shinola's second store here in Grand Rapids. They have one over at the Tanger Outlets in Byron Center. They've executed a 3-year lease on this space, and they're looking for support to the tune of $61,000, which is half their rent for about 18 months. And the really great thing I think about this, and hopefully I'm not stealing too much of Rich's thunder here, is a while back we did some work with Mike Byrne, who talked about broadening retail strategy for downtown, and one of the key components of that strategy was an anchor tenant on the other end of Monroe Center to sort of counterbalance Rosa Parks being an anchor on the Monroe Center side. And I think we would all probably agree that a business like Shinola, a company like Shinola, going into that space on the other end of Monroe Center checks that box for us and gives us a strong retail anchor tenant on that end of Monroe Center. Here you have a picture of the space and then just some other concepts that they've highlighted in other stores. So we're looking forward to their sort of exterior and interior design. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rich App here. He can talk a little bit more about Shinola and whatever else he wants to talk about.
Byron Center's not Grand Rapids, by the way. So yeah, it sounds, when you saw the press release come out a couple of weeks ago, it sounded like they were coming in really hot. But the truth of the matter is I started emailing Shinola back in February of 2020. Went to Detroit March 13th, Friday, March 13th, actually, of 2020, and. Well, that Sunday we shut everything down. But as we're continuing to move forward, it's really exciting to have had the opportunity to work with really the whole team from Shinola, and they're coming in hot, and they're doing really cool, innovative things that are going to be doing in that space. It's a Herculean effort from Rockford Construction to put this together in such a quick fashion. I mean, 6 weeks ago, there was an IT company in that building, and we are Friday the 17th at 10:30, we will be doing a ribbon cutting for Shinola. So like Melvin said, one of the things that's exciting for me as somebody who's trying to build our downtown and to connect things is people that are staying in the hotels now have a reason to go all the way down to Division, which is exciting. And when we can get them that far, we can start pointing toward the 6-7 upcycling stores that have opened on Division, which are really exciting. We've also got a new music venue coming in, and one of the things I had said to Tim just earlier this morning is what's exciting about Grand Rapids today is we have a company from Detroit coming in. We just opened a new distillery up in Uptown that is putting in their 7th location. And when they come in, they're showing us how to actually attract better businesses. One thing that I said to Tim, and it's kind of sappy, but I love it actually, is that right above their door, they're going to put a 375-pound clock. What's significant about that is when you think about the center of our city, Division and Fulton, that's our Times Square, and now we're going to have a clock there that's going to show that we are a growing city, and I'm excited about that. So hopefully we'll see you all on the 17th at 10:30. Also have another, obviously, ribbon cutting on Monday at 9. It's really cool to see what Grand Rapids is coming with, and one determining factor that I think is important to bring up that Shinola really wanted was starting getting data from the different colleges that we have, and the proximity to Kendall, to CC, Western, Michigan State, and Grand Valley was really a selling point for this because we are a growing city. I mean, we're growing between the ages of 20 and 38 years old, and this is the kind of active lifestyle place that Shinola wants. I mean, one of the pictures right there is actually from their Ann Arbor store, and it's really right in the student ward. So we're doing some nice things here, and it's going to be exciting to have them here. So that's what I've got.
I'll entertain any questions you might have at this point.
Yes. Two questions. You included the sort of the chart behind the memo that shows some recent closures. Any themes that you see? I mean, there seems to be a time average that some of these grants have supported. So one is just kind of any learnings from those that have been unsuccessful that we have supported, and secondly, how should we think about the price tag on this proposal? Because it would be one of the second highest, and just how are we looking at the strategy behind the goal here? The startups versus national retailer? Just
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. In terms of the businesses that have closed, I think it's hard to kind of be able to glean a lot of lessons from it from our perspective. A lot of it's dependent on the business owners and how they run and operate their business. And I will say, out of that list that's closed, at least one of them, Basic Bee, for example, is still open. They just moved out of the district. And that's not exactly what we're going for. I think one of the things that I'm often reminded about where Basic Bee started way down on South Division is that in a lot of aspects acts as an incubator space for those businesses to grow and become bigger and better. We hope that we can retain them in other parts of downtown, but we can't always. I think some of the work that we've done over this last 2 years, so for a while the Retail Innovation Grant was actually closed and we were not accepting applications because we were taking a pretty deep introspective look at that grant and trying to understand, looking at these closings, some of them were maybe COVID related, but we really wanted to understand that when someone came to us and said, I have an idea for a business, we want to open up in downtown, here's what it's going to take to have that happen. We wanted to make sure that they were really doing their homework and due diligence as business owners. And so we've worked internally as a team to sort of build some mechanisms around that. We require a little more financial reporting than we've ever had. We put a lot more weight on whether or not they're working with economic support organizations like GROW or SCORE to make sure that they're supported, that they're not really going it alone. And I will say that I think that work has been tremendously successful. The applicants we're getting now for the Retail Innovation Grant are a lot stronger than we have in the past, and I really point to one of the last businesses that we funded, Second Vibes, is a very strong business, and within 6 to 8 months after opening, they expanded into another storefront. So they're operating 2 storefronts right now, and they're just very forward-thinking and very passionate about the community that they're living and doing business in. So I think some of the introspective work we've done in regards to these closings and looking at just sort of the broader retail landscape has really put us in a position to try to really tease out who those strong business owners are and be able to fund those. In terms of the amount that's funded, it is one of the larger amounts that we've sort of historically funded. I don't have the number in front of me, but we sort of account for larger expenditures like this type of Retail Innovation Grant in our budget. So we have the budget, and I think we sort of expect 2, maybe 3 even larger retail innovation grants as kind of built into that. And if we don't use them, we can disperse them out further. So in terms of our overall budget, this won't preclude us from funding some of those other smaller startups that are potentially coming in and looking to get some support in this level. And then to your other point about sort of small startups, small businesses, and sort of these national retailers, I think our primary focus has often been on the small businesses, the small local entrepreneurs starting up their businesses and looking to fill storefronts. But I think, when we're looking and talking about the broader retail strategy of downtown, especially some of that work that we've done with Mike Byrne, having an opportunity to check off getting a anchor store like Shinola on the corner of Monroe Center Division is something that, we think and we know or can probably hazard a pretty good guess is good for downtown and good for the downtown retail landscape. And so this is something that we should support because it sort of lends itself to our broader retail goals of strengthening the overall core of downtown retail and making sure that it's an environment that's inviting as many people down. Because if a bunch of people are going to come down to shop Shinola, they're probably going to go next door to Oh Hello and next door to Courage and Soar and next door to Gazelle. And so really understanding it as sort of what's good for one of them is probably good for all of them.
Shinola came in despite having another lease 15 miles away, and they came in wide open with the idea that they said, but if we can help fund part of this, that would make it feasible for them to run that lease out while they're operating their store downtown. So that was a big part of that reason as well. And Rockford really leaned in on some of the construction costs, and they've been working really great together. It's good to see organizations like DGRI, Rockford, and Shinola working together to get to yes, and that's ultimately where we are on that.
Maybe just a couple things to underline for you. One is on the closures, the The way the grant is set up and the way we've always approached it is it is an incubator. And so we know that there's not going to be a 100% success rate. It's sort of written right into the statute. So some of it is we want to offer support. We want to give opportunities for people to come and try out their business. We want to give them the resources to be successful, but we know that not all of them are going to be. That said, I think 3 of those that closed did get approval in December of 2020. So I think timing had a lot to do with it. The other thing I just wanted to highlight, and Melvin touched on it, is the importance of the adjacency, co-tenancy. I think some of that drives up the cost. We want these retailers to be close, connected to each other, because we know that that creates a shopping experience for everyone. That might mean that the rent is a little bit higher than if they went into a corridor with more vacancy. But I think it's, from our perspective, it's worth it to create that retail environment that we know people want.
And just to be clear, is my question, I fully support
Yeah.
this. It was more to have more of a conversation around our retail strategy, because it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the more important forward goals we have that I think we have struggled with, and having 5 or 6 more Shinolas, I think will have a huge halo effect to the more local startups that I think we all get excited about when they come present, because we see the local entrepreneur, we're excited, we want to support them, but having them then nestle amongst a network of these anchors, I think can be very powerful. So I think this is a huge opportunity, but we've had more dialogue on sort of those smaller ones, and I know that part of it is the opportunities. If they're not right, they're not right. But I think having a more concerted effort, even, we have success here, what can we follow it up with? Because getting more of these stitched into the corridors that we want to have retail will have a huge positive impact for those other kind of startups that we're also interested in.
Yeah, I think one thing we should remember is when we started these grants 4 or 5 years ago, that was always our goal, is to try to find key tenants that would, make a difference for anchor tenants, really, to make a difference for the rest of the tenants and just the dynamic downtown. So I think this is truly a victory for us. And I think, I think it's only going to help spur on more interest in other anchor tenants, I hope. So, so kudos to Rich. That's a lot of work to make these things happen, and they don't happen overnight, as we know. So,
Yeah, it's just to echo that. I think Rich started, and when did you start, Rich? February of 2020? And I maybe it was a little before that, but Shinola was definitely the first thing that came out of his mouth. So I think it's a testament to his diligence that this has come through.
What is the total budget for this year for retail elevation grants?
I believe we're at 250 overall. Yeah.
Yeah, I so appreciate the historical reference in the packet. Maybe next time around, could you also put the budget for each fiscal year next to the total spend?
Yeah, happy to do that. Yep.
yes.
How do we arrive at the number? Is it square footage, is it percentage of cost?
The number, the support number?
Yeah.
So it's based on their rent, so it's 50% of their rent for an 18-month period. That's typically based on price per square foot for that tax.
And
that's in the statute.
The statute dictates the 18-month period. Our policy is up to 50% of the rent over that 18-month period.
Yes.
Then I'm just addressing, you had asked something about like trends and whatnot, and for me, one of the trends that I see on the closing ones, at least how it's laid out here, is that I recognize that at least 5 of the 6 are business owners of color. Now I do know Basic B relocated as well, but that may allow us as a city, as a downtown, to ask additional questions about what's needed, about representation, about who shops where. But I think that may allow us to ask other questions that we need to ask. And then a question that I had for this business is: are there any is this like local hiring? Are there any additional jobs that's being provided, or maybe are they sending people from the other store to this one?
So Rich just flashed me some gang signs in the back. Looks like they're hiring about 10 folks locally. So it looks like they're hiring 10 folks locally.
The GM is actually somebody who's been in retail for Grand Rapids for quite
Oh,
some
nice.
time.
Yep, I didn't know that.
Anything else? If not, we should land this plane, as my predecessor would always say.
So moved.
Support.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you all so much.
Can't wait to see the store.
November 17th, next Friday. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Send an invite to everyone.
Next is equally important, Community Rebuilders Report. Welcome.
We'll
Ms. Beach.
invite Vera Beach up from Community Rebuilders. Just a quick setup. So back in June, the EDA, in partnership with the county and city, approved some funding to work with Community Rebuilders on their geographic housing outreach program. And so we included the quarterly report in the packet. We wanted to invite Vera here to kind of give us an overview and answer any questions that you might have.
Good morning, and thank you so much. I am really excited to be here today and give you an update on this really amazing project that has brought together a lot of key partners to really make a transformative approach on our streets, but also in the lives of those who have been living long-term on the downtown streets of Grand Rapids. So currently, we are pleased to report on some substantial progress in this first quarter. We have successfully enrolled 14 individuals across 12 households, marking the crucial first step for those individuals to engage with us and seek housing. I am proud to share that that's a 93% engagement rate. So often you hear that people who are living on the street don't want housing, they don't want to think about leaving the streets. That's just not what our data is proving. So 93% of the people that we outreach to have engaged with us. Of that 93%, there's only one person that we lost throughout this first quarter. So meaning that that person initially connected with us and then disappeared. And we don't know where they are in the community at this point in time. So that's pretty good odds. About 92% of the folks are engaging with us. And we've also had some really great success moving those persons to permanent housing. So in those first quarter that we've been operating the program, 14 individuals were engaged with, and 13 of them have moved to permanent housing. So they're no longer in a temporary living arrangement. They are in housing that is permanent and that has resources and supports to help them stay stably housed. We are really proud of that and really excited about the transformation that we've seen. I think if you have an opportunity to grab one of our reports, it's a little bit lengthy this time because we really felt a need to help people understand how this project works because it's often been misunderstood. And so we promise that future reports won't be as lengthy, but it really does give everyone kind of an idea of what does that process look like and how are people moving from the streets to permanent housing. In our effort to address one geographic area at a time, as you all know, we targeted Monroe Center initially. And we are really pleased that we were able to move 14 people out of Monroe Center and into housing. Of those 14, it's also critical to know that we are cross-referencing with a list that was compiled by the City of Grand Rapids that involved law enforcement and others coming together and identifying 22 individuals who were the highest utilizers of emergency services. So as we've cross-referenced that list of folks that we've housed, there were 6 people who were also on that list that the City of Grand Rapids provided of those who were most critically engaged with emergency services. So that's really great news as well. And then there was an additional person who was on that list that was housed through another program at Community Rebuilders. So that list of 22 has been reduced to 15, which is really great news because those are some of the most vulnerable persons that are experiencing homelessness in our community. It's also significant to know that I believe it is 12 of the 14 individuals were chronically homeless. So that means they had long-term homelessness in addition to a severe and persistent mental or physical health disability. So you can imagine how their health is going to improve as they are housed. And we know that from data and research from previous projects and other permanent supportive housing projects that really health and wellness stabilizes. So that's a really great, encouraging thing. Around the project, you know, a lot of folks in the beginning said, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. And we tried to explain that part of the reason the cost was so high in our proposal was because we know that it often takes a great deal of time to connect persons to permanent supportive housing. So for those of you who may not be familiar with permanent supportive housing, what it really is housing that has the supports attached to it that keep people permanently housed. So it's one thing to get them into housing, but then you've got to keep them stable, right? So those supportive services become really important. And so linking people to those permanent supportive housing options within our community is not something that is completely organized and works super well in our community. It's an area of opportunity for our community to improve our coordinated entry system, and we are working on that as well. But we've been able to reduce the cost to $6,532 per person. So that's the average cost of persons who've been involved in this project to date. And we will continue to measure that cost throughout the course of the project. And we can reduce that cost by quickly linking to those permanent supportive housing projects. So that is a real goal of our project and something that we will be tracking. Also, you'll notice that in the report, you can see a chart that sort of shows the journey and the different types of services that each household used. That's really important because we will be monitoring long-term housing stability of these households and wanting to make sure that we understand what pathways resulted in the best outcomes. In operational terms, we have met some challenges with agility and responsiveness. The project really is intended to come into that geographic area, get the persons who have been living in that area housed, and then post it and inform the community that the area is cleared, and then move on to another geographic area. What we had hoped, so I believe it was August 24th, where we declared that Monroe Center had been cleared, but it has still not been posted by the City of Grand Rapids. They've had some delays due to the new ordinances and really trying to figure out and navigate how best to do that. So we look forward in this next quarter to really working on getting that area posted and moving to the next area. So currently we are working on some conversations around what is the next strategic area. A lot of folks have been talking about some changes on Leonard that they've seen and wanting to really target that Leonard Street area. But those discussions will happen with the HOT team and other community partners to really identify where do they want us to go next. We will also continue to work on that 15 that remain on that list of the highest utilizers of emergency services. We've had some struggles with financing this project. We had a lot of pledges. To date, we have, so just on November 1st was when we signed our contract with the City of Grand Rapids. So your funds are now available to us. That contract is a total of $650,000. But as you know, we're hoping to receive funding from businesses and philanthropy as well as the county, and those are still in process and have not been finalized. Looking ahead, I think we are really excited to see some additional updates with other outreach providers in the community. We've gotten a little bit closer to people being focused on outreach that's focused on housing. So there's a lot of language that's shifting in our outreach providers across the community, but there's still a lot of making people comfortable on the street versus quickly getting them off of the streets and into housing. So we continue to send that message, which is really important. In closing, we are deeply thankful for the support of our community and all of you in addressing this issue. We think that we are not only transforming our neighborhoods and our community, but we know that we are transforming lives. There's a couple of personal stories in each one of our reports so that you get a sense of the shift and the change in people's lives. I have to tell you, just as the street looks very different, so do those persons. In a matter of weeks, you almost don't recognize them. So they come in the office and they're working with us the first couple of weeks, and then they come back after they're housed, and you're almost like, wait a minute, is that who I think it is? Because the transformation is just incredible. So you are having a huge impact on our work and our ability to make this happen, so thank you. And I am here for any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
I have one that, it's a money-related question, so I want to preface it. I'm asking it because I think we're fiduciaries, and so the money part's important, but I want to acknowledge that I think for those that you've successfully housed, first it's the transformation of the individual that you've achieved. But there's two parts of the money question. One, if I heard the number correctly, it sounds like you're housing, particularly those that are heavy users of the emergency services, rather affordably, and I was wondering if we knew, or even from a general direction or swag perspective, understood how much the city incurs when there's a heavy user, which also is a direct cost, but it's also an opportunity loss for those services to go elsewhere. But if there's a way to juxtapose those, because it sounds like this is a hell of an investment in terms of, if I was understanding what you were saying, so I just wanted to shine a light on that if we knew the numbers and if I was understanding it accurately, because it's a pretty remarkable story.
Yeah, so that is a really important comment. What we did in some of our early work is to really kind of highlight for folks, like, this is where you're spending money, but we don't have any amounts, but we know from communities across the country where those dollars are coming in. This has been an important effort for community rebuilders even prior to this project, particularly when it's related to the healthcare system. So we are trying, and we've been working for the last 2 years with Spectrum, Corewell Health now, to really identify the cost savings. What they've seen with our permanent supportive housing programs is that, you know, we have folks in those programs who were going to the emergency room 22 times in a year, who, once they get housed, that drops down to 1 to 3 times a year. So all of that data is really evidencing the cost savings to the healthcare system. But even our partners at Corewell, who are really invested in tracking these numbers, you know, they know it takes a lot of work to get that evidence to the level that it needs to be at Corewell, so that decisions can start being driven by data. We don't have any good way of tracking all of those expenses across the city, but that is something that we definitely want to be able to do, even if we can get close to some numbers and some estimates of what is the cost savings, because it's definitely there.
I guess to be clear, we're really talking about opportunity cost savings and not cash necessarily. I mean, the hospital's going to have people on staff regardless of homeless people coming in or not, right? And the city's going to have police on the street. They might allocate them differently. But it's important, but I think it is a distinction. We want to make sure that we understand it's not necessarily cash we're talking about.
Well, but it's both. For instance, in the case of law enforcement, an officer can respond to a different situation more rapidly, or be someplace to deter or prevent if they're not tied up with.
Right, but the cost of that officer is the same either way.
Agreed, but
right.
I think there's a way to quantify the cost value of a safer neighborhood.
Sure. Yeah.
Due to more robust presence.
I think what we've, it's also really important, because I think what we've heard from some of the businesses who have said, this has made a huge impact on Monroe Center, and we want to see this continue. What we've heard is, you know, they were frustrated often because law enforcement didn't have the capacity to respond to their situation, because they were responding to more critical calls. And so there's also that benefit to your businesses within the community who now feel like, oh, first of all, they have a better feeling and impression of law enforcement, because it's very frustrating for them when they think they have a critical situation, but law enforcement says, I don't have time to respond because I have something more critical. So you're bridging that gap, and that experience is improved. So I think there's all kinds of ways that when we talk to law enforcement, they're like, this is hugely helpful. And they're very open also to saying, hey, I got a few more names to add to your list, because they know that those persons are taking a large amount of their time and effort away from other critical tasks that they want to perform.
Yeah, I think I would argue there are some hard costs associated with this. I mean, our emergency rooms probably have to staff to a level to accommodate all these people, whether it's 22 times or police have to staff up to handle. So I think there is some direct costs that we could point to, cost savings, that this program is generating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the hospital, everything from, so we've targeted for the hospital, we've targeted some chronic health conditions. So even the cost savings to the hospitals when we can bring someone's A1C level down just by having them housed is having an impact on their budget. So they're tracking all of those things because they know it matters. But we're just, some communities have kind of moved a little bit faster, and so you have some places across the country where hospitals are now investing in permanent supportive housing, and we're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer.
Well, I think it's great results for our first go at this. Congrats.
Thank you. We're really pleased to be able to do this for the community. Thank you.
All right, next is the Executive Director report. Mr. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Show us more good news.
A few highlights. I think everyone knows by now, but we'll keep talking about it until the projects are done. But Lion Square and the Public Museum are both underway and moving along. They'll be working out there up until they can't because of the weather, but they're trying to get everything done near the river edge that they can before the water gets too high. So work will continue on both those through next year, but you'll see a lot of progress over the next couple weeks. Along with that, our wayfinding system continues to roll out. To date, we have around 85 new signs out, about 20 more coming before the end of the calendar year. That work will continue into next year as well. The city parking system is also going to be working on their portion and getting some new signs up, but hopefully you're seeing those and using them if you need them. That's why they're there. Also wanted to reminder the Monroe Center benches, which you all approved funding for back in September, those will start to show up in December. We're going to do them in phases, so there'll be about 40 that'll show up before the end of the calendar year, and then we'll come back and finish up the bulk of them in the spring. There were some questions last time around about what they looked like. This is one that is out on Fulton Street at our Zikla bus extension there. So this is largely what the benches will look like, and they will be replacing the 20-plus-year-old plexi benches there. Jefferson Avenue, another project that you approved funding for. This is going to be starting now in the spring. We had hoped that it would be starting off this month, but a couple of delays in getting contractors on board has pushed it into the spring, which we think will still work well, still stay within budget. You'll see it hopefully break ground in April, but that work will be showing up soon. And then just a couple of highlights I wanted to point out since we didn't meet in September, noteworthy highlights. Our September visitor counts were actually exceeded 2019. So this is, I think, something to applaud. Obviously, the weather helped, a lot of the events, art prizes going on, but I just wanted to make sure that you all saw that note. For October, this was in your vitals report, we're back down. We typically see a dip in the fall, but we're still above our 5-year average. And we think with some of the events coming up in the next few months that we'll see numbers tick back up. We did include at your seats a calendar of what's happening. So you see the list there over the next few weeks. In addition, the downtown market has their Chris Kindle market that starts next weekend. And then, of course, World of Winter is gearing up. Our team is all hands on deck to get things ready for that. We just announced publicly the large installations, and we have our new website up and running, and our Instagram account is up as well. So hopefully you're all following that and can share it amongst your networks. But we're really excited to see that coming forward. Winner's here. All right, that's my report. Any questions? Happy to take them.
Any questions? It's all good news. All right, now is the time for public comment. If there's anyone in the public that would like to step forward, now is your time. Seeing none. Any board member comments?
A couple.
Okay.
Just one comment, well, two tonight, so, or this morning. And you'll understand why I say tonight in a minute.
Still dark.
Yeah.
Great. So I exercise at the downtown MVP, so I come downtown on the weekends often to go there, and it's been annoying because there's no place to park. But the story there is that it's beautiful because the city is alive, and it's amazing, and it is such a change. And so seeing these numbers are reflective of the experience. It just brings a smile to my face every time I'm bothered with trying to struggle to find a place to park. So kudos to the work that's being done. Secondly, I just want to celebrate that Grand Rapids Public Schools passed their bond last night. Yes, that's right. So thank you to those of you in the room who talked to somebody about the importance of that and supported us. Thank you to our voters who said yes. Our board will be unveiling our facilities master plan next week, Monday at 6:30 p.m. So now's the time to watch Grand Rapids Public Schools. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and have a great day, great weekend. I know it's only Wednesday, but